All right, welcome back to the stage, Mike Black. So, Mike, let me ask you a question. What is one of the funniest volunteer stories that you've had or know about?
Well, my go-to story actually didn't happen in this church. It happened in the church I was a youth pastor at in Illinois. But there was a couple, not quite retirement age, mid-50s, and they decided, a husband and wife, they decided they were going to volunteer with the preschool class, like 2, 3, 4-year-olds. And the thing about this guy is he is a Harley biker type guy, bald head, big white beard, lots of tattoos, always wore jeans, boots, and a t-shirt, and very intimidating. In fact, he was on the search committee when I interviewed for the youth pastor job, and he looked at me and said, "You're a pretty scary looking dude. How are you going to relate to these kids?" And I looked at him like, "You're a pretty scary looking dude too." Like, we just try to get along. So that's this couple, he and his wife. The very first Sunday, they walk in the classroom, and I'm going to say the kid's name. I don't think you'll ever see the video that we're recording. Little Corey Warner walked up to him, and the biker guy's name's Ernst. Ernst kind of bent over a little bit, goes, "Hey, Corey," and Corey just punched him right where it counts. Very first Sunday. That's one of the funniest things.
We just lost 2 new volunteers for Children's
Well, not every volunteer gets hit where it counts.
Yeah.
So
that's
just
fair.
Go in.
So we lost 2 guys that are okay.
They continued to serve in that role for a long time and did a really great job. But that's one of the funniest.
Okay. So obviously, the video we just watched is what we don't want to see in our volunteers. So what makes an exceptional volunteer?
Yeah, I mean, you would think an exceptional volunteer would be one that is like super spiritual and like really close to God, and that we need that.
And they listen to 88.3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't listen to 88.3. But I'm the least spiritual one on staff, by the way. And probably in my home. My wife is way more godly than me. But anyway, so you would think like our volunteers, we want them to be, and we do want you guys to have a relationship with Jesus, obviously. We want you to be growing in your faith and becoming more like him. But the things that really stand out to me are just simple, tangible things. I grew up playing basketball. Jack actually grew up playing basketball, and Jack was a much better player than I was, although I think we're probably equal now. He wants to go out back right now and show me. I knew that he wasn't expecting me to say that. I knew that would get him riled up. He's ready to compete now. But when I was playing basketball, I played in middle school and high school, and I just did enough to get by. Like, I didn't do anything. I just did the bare minimum. I showed up for practice. Like, I did the conditioning. I just did the bare minimum, like running sprints. We had to run 5 walls in 30 seconds, and the coach would put 30 seconds on the clock, and I would just get there right at 30 seconds. I just did the bare minimum to get by. And then my senior year, the summer before my senior year, I'm like, I want to play more. And so I started that summer, I really worked on my game. And it was too little too late. Now, my senior year was my best year of basketball. I'd got more playing time than I had the previous years, and I was able to contribute to the team and all that stuff outside of practice. And so, but I wish I would have seen this. A few years ago, I saw a list come out, and it was just 10 things any athlete could do without talent. Anybody. And I wish I would have seen this list when I was in high school, because I think I would have changed the way I would have done things. These 10 things, of course, it was talking about sports and athletes, but really, these things they're what stand out to us in volunteers. They don't require any talent or gifts. Anybody can do these things. And people who do these things, they're some of our favorite volunteers. And so I'm just going to share some and talk through them with you. Number one, being on time. Anybody can be on time. I heard this said a while back, and I believe it's true. When people are late, they're communicating something. They're communicating their time is more valuable than anybody else's time. And so volunteers who show up on time, that's an exceptional volunteer. Now, I realize we live in a place where there's tons of traffic. And there was a huge accident close to the overpass on John Young going into Kissimmee this morning. I was going the opposite direction, but the road was closed down. Sometimes things happen when you're late, but being on time is huge. Work ethic, working hard. My daughters, 24 and 20, of course, they're in a generation that is looked down upon because they don't want to work or work hard. Ever since my girls were little, I drilled in their heads, work hard. If you work hard, you'll be further along than anyone else your age. And you hear about it in the job market. It's hard to find good workers. You hear bosses say that all the time. It's hard to find good workers. Just work hard. Number 3, effort. Just choosing to keep pushing even when it gets hard. Effort is a choice. Body language. You know, what does your face say when people are coming through the door? What does that communicate? What are you communicating with your face and your body and just kind of slumping down? You know, exceptional volunteers have good body language. Energy, and not just relying on caffeine. We had a young kid that used to play the drums here. He was a high school student, and he was a great drummer and did a great job for us. But he always was tired, and he just, like, you could see it. I mean, it goes back to the body language, but you could just see it, and he was dragging. And his dad is a good friend of mine, and I would kind of joke with him, like, man, your boy's always tired up there at drums. He's like, just like. And he's like, you know, I told him if he's going to play drums on a worship team, that starts on Saturday night. It doesn't start when you get to church. You have to have energy Sunday morning, so that means you go to bed at a decent time on Saturday night. And I think, you know, we all need to do that. The jobs that you do here are important to the kingdom. And I don't need to, you guys get it, I don't need.
Take a melatonin before you go to sleep. Easy.
Just make sure you wake up. Number 6, attitude. Again, anybody, it doesn't take any talent at all to have a good attitude. Passion, being coachable or being teachable. That means actually welcoming feedback. Occasionally, as ministry team leaders, you know, there's stuff that people don't meet the expectations that's put before them, and so we've got to coach them and teach them. Okay, here's how you could say that better next time, or here's how you could handle that child differently next time when they're acting out of control. Here's how you can do this to the safety team. Here's how you can, not make someone feel like they're a terrorist when they come in the door. And so being coachable and being a good listener is exceptional. Number 9, do extra. Go the extra mile. You know, Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, he talks about if a Roman soldier asks you to carry his stuff 1 mile, go with him 2. And in that day, a Roman soldier could just pick any Jewish person and make them carry their gear. I don't know, military today, they probably carry, 60 to 80 pounds gear on them? I don't really know. I'm just throwing numbers out there. Some of you guys are veterans. You could tell me exactly what your gear is. So Roman soldiers would just have random Jewish people carry their gear for a mile. Now, after the mile, they could drop it and go their way. But Jesus, like, why don't you go another one with them? And that's just totally anti-cultural in that day. And so going the extra mile, when popcorn comes in the door 10 minutes and we don't have it out for you when you guys go through the registration line, everyone jumps in to get the popcorn done. So just those are exceptional things. And then 10, be prepared. Especially, well, every role really, there's some preparation that needs to go into it. And really taking the time to do that is exceptional. Those are all things anybody can do. You don't even need a spiritual gift to do those things. And if you do those things, you'll stand out. That's exceptional. Those, like I said, these are our favorite, our go-tos. And, of course, the spiritual gifts just add, that's the more important thing, really. But sometimes you're really gifted at something, and you still have to be prepared and make sure you get enough sleep. And you might be able to sing or play an instrument in the worship band. You might be able to just show up on Sunday mornings without coming to any rehearsals and without listening to the music ahead of time. You might have enough talent and giftedness to do that, but it's still better to come to rehearsals and to practice and to listen to the songs during the week to be prepared. You might have the gift to teach, to where you can go into a classroom with 5 or 6 little elementary kids and you can teach them a lesson and they might learn some of that. You might have enough giftedness to wing it. It's still better to go through that lesson plan a couple times before you get here and to have everything that you need to make that, kind of put the polish on. You might have a pretty face and be really naturally welcoming. It's better to shower and put on deodorant. Be prepared for welcoming people at the door. Did that one land? I didn't know if that one was going to land or not.
I landed in youth group for years.
You might be able to talk yourself out of any situation and confrontation. I'm thinking of the safety team here. But it's better to be prepared and run through those different scenarios instead of just relying on being a good talker and trying to diffuse a situation. It's better to actually, what do we do when a ex-husband and father who doesn't have contact with their kids, what do we do when he shows up and tries to take the kids? Mm-hmm. You don't just need to be a good talker, you need to have a plan in place. Those are things that we deal with, by the way. There's some pretty serious things that we try to think through and be prepared for. We had one family where the husband didn't even know where his kids were, and so we couldn't put pictures on social media and on our website in fear that the dad would find them. Anyway, so those 10 things, anybody can do them. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. And if you do that, that's an exceptional volunteer. You'll stand out.
Definitely. So there are some things we need help with around the church, obviously. They don't seem very big or important. Just anyone can do them. What would you say to someone discouraged because they aren't being used for the most important jobs?
Yeah, and this doesn't happen too much around here. This church is really harmonious. The people here are super great to work with. No one's here with a hidden agenda trying to be seen. No one's trying to make it on American Idol by singing in our worship band. No one's trying to be seen. But sometimes it is hard when it seems like you're the one who's always taking out the trash, or you're the one who's always stuck with the kids in the nursery. It seems like that. The first thing I would say is that why do you want a big, important job? That's the first thing I would say. I would kind of check their motives a little bit. What are you looking for in your own life? Because there's some things to work through there. I mean, is it for status? Is it to be seen and noticed? Is it to get, people like saying, good job, I'd really like to see you up front or whatever. If someone's overzealous to do something, I'm a little leery. I'd rather have someone who's reluctant and I have to push them to do it than someone who is like super excited and wants. Sometimes we have people volunteer for big jobs the first Sunday they're here, and that's a red flag to me. It's like, okay, why don't we get to know you first? Why don't you get to know us first and see if we're all on the same page here? And so I worked at a church camp for a while, and when I'll never forget this. It is such an important life lesson for me, and it's this exact thing. We had a John Deere tractor with a front end loader and a mower on the back, and all of us guys, like, we wanted to drive the tractor. We were. And so one day, the maintenance guy, his name was Ron Batts, and he's just a cool guy, kind of like I don't know. He was a Renaissance man. He knew something about everything, but he was showing us the tractor and training us on the tractor, and he began to look, and you could tell he was looking for someone to put on the tractor to drive it. And there was another kid. His name was Jonathan. He's like, I want to drive. And Ron just overpassed him, and he picked a kid that's kind of like trying not to make eye contact because he was super nervous about that tractor. And his name was RG. He's like, RG, get on the tractor. RG's like, I don't want to. He's like, get on the tractor. That's what I'm talking about. Like, Jonathan, he may have been okay on the tractor, but chances are he's going to do something. He's going to wreck it, And so there's a verse in the Bible. This would be another thing I'd say to someone who's like wanting a big job and kind of feels like they're just stuck in a little job. There's a verse in the Bible that says, if you're faithful with the little things, you'll be faithful with the big things. And I kind of experienced this when I was a student out at Johnson. I was older than I came into school when I was 30 years old, sitting in class with a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And after a couple years, I began to kind of get, and I had to check my motives, but I'm like, I want to speak in chapel. And it became a kind of a deal for me. Like, I felt like that was a status thing. People would notice me, and so, my motives weren't always pure. But I decided, this verse came to mind, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to just put my head down, do all the little things, and if it happens, it happens. Well, my senior year, like a month before I graduate, I got asked to speak in chapel. If you do well with the little things, if you're faithful with little things, you'll be entrusted to do the big things. Just to make that point even more, like Brad Vela is our PCC pastor. That's his story. He came here as a volunteer. He looked like one of the students. He looked younger than the students. And he did so well in his internship. And after his internship was unpaid, it was all volunteer. After his internship, he stayed and he kept doing everything he did in his internship, and even more. We kept asking him to do more. And you might remember his name tag. For the longest time, it just said intern. Like, we didn't even put his name on his name tag. And he's just volunteering, and he's working more than some of our paid staff. And we're like, we got to put this guy on staff. And so we brought him on staff. And then, again, when he graduated, we're like, man, we need to ordain this guy and promote him up and give him a new title and stuff. And then, New Year's Day, Sunday morning, he preached one of the best sermons that this church has heard in a long time. If you're faithful with the little things, you'll be entrusted with the big things.
Yeah, and I always joke about Brad. Even when he was an intern, I'm like, you're just going to walk up one day and go, I work here. Like, yeah, you do? Okay. So he's going to walk one day, he's going to be sitting in my chair and going, this is my job now.
No, I'm not saying if you start volunteering, you might work into a job, but it may not. So
You got some dedicated people.
You're
never
all
mind.
on the payroll.
Yeah. You're all depressed. I was kidding. Okay, so next question. What is the best thing about volunteering? Because volunteering doesn't sound fun. Let's be honest. If someone goes, hey, help me move this weekend, you're like, I'm sick.
Well, it goes back to the working genius. I mean, that's your default.
Yeah.
Mine, I'm actually passionate about helping people,
That's right.
so I say yes to a lot. I don't have a pickup, so if you're moving, I don't have a pickup. But
I definitely don't either.
The best thing about volunteering, of course, is going to be different for everyone. This is just some things that I think about. And I will say this too, because you might be sitting there and looking at Jack and me and Brandy and the other staff. We're paid to be here, but there's certain things we do that actually fall in the volunteer realm. And so there's extra things that, even though we may get paid and stuff, but there's extra things that come up that we're actually volunteering for, even in the church. And so when I think about the things that I do that are over and above that kind of fall in that, there's nothing more really rewarding and satisfying to me. Again, I love to help people, so but you're being used by God. You're part of something bigger, kind of what I preached about Sunday. You're part of something bigger than yourself. And really, you get to see lives changed. I mean, when you're in the children's ministry and you see a kid fall in love with Jesus and want to know more about Jesus, I mean, what's better than that? When you're welcoming someone to the church for the first time and you're making them feel welcome and accepted here, to where they say, and I hear people say this, now not everybody has this experience, but I hear people say this, as soon as I was here, I felt like I was home. What's better than that? When you're just on the safety team and walking around and making sure there's nothing suspicious going on the campus, and you're able to go, and you may not realize it until there is something come up, but you walk home and there's no incidents. That's a good day. Hearing, just seeing lives changed, baptisms, all that stuff. Even people who are doing the small jobs, working in the nursery or setting communion out, or just welcoming someone at the back door, that allows God to work in this building, not just in this room, but in this building, and the Holy Spirit to move and lives to be changed. And that's what I think. It's so rewarding and satisfying.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Thank you, Mike.
Is that it?
That's it.